parties, they stand quashed.
Okay. All right. Yash, thanks very much for the details. We also have Karan Taurani joining in, and I think Abneesh Roy of Nuvama should also be with us. Gentlemen, I'm just reminding all our viewers what the merger was all about now that the clearance has come through. If we just recall, Sony Pictures was to hold just under 51% in the merged entity, 50.86 to be precise. And Z shareholders were supposed to hold 45.15%, with Puneet Goenka and Subhash Chandra, that entity holding just under 4%. So the majority was supposed to be with Sony Pictures, with 45% being held by the Z shareholders. Karan, your first thoughts. So you were always in the camp that this will go through. I mean, we don't know if it gets challenged further or not, but for today, it's a big win, and I guess Z shareholders will be happy. How would you see it, and what should shareholders look out for next?
I think this is a big respite that the approval has come in, and the bigger respite has come in without any kind of conditions. So right from SEBI to the creditors, there have been no conditions imposed in the merger, because that could have also potentially led to a delay. Now, we actually await the decision on the Goenka family in terms of what is the future outlook for them, whether or not they'll be a part of this. But as we see, as where things stand today, I think there is a very high likelihood of the merger probably going through without the Goenka family, because Mr. Puneet Goenka has also stepped down, from the board of Z as well. But all in all, I think it looks good. And from here on, I think going ahead, one could start exploring the actual synergies of the business. And I think the run-up right now is more in terms of the valuations showing respite because of the merger going through.
What valuations is it trading at currently, and what are the factors you're going to be looking at from here on, Karan?
So I think in terms of valuations, if you see, I think the core broadcasting business piece would be trading at somewhere close to 14-15 times PE currently after this run-up that we have seen. And we valued Z on an SOTP basis when we've assigned a multiple of 17 to 18 times on the broadcasting business. And we've also valued the OTT business and the cash infusion that Sony will be doing. So basis everything, we get a merged core market cap of somewhere close to about 65,000 crores. And if you take the Z stake today in that, the market cap could be in the range of about 30,000 odd crores. So there's a good enough 25% upside, 20% upside from current levels as well.
Abneesh, do you want to comment on the upside for Z Entertainment? Because about a year back, Z Entertainment price had even gone up to levels of about 370.
Yeah, 3-4 key things. One is, of course, today it is a verbal announcement. We should also wait for the detailed final order. If you remember, in PVR Inox merger case also, the detailed order took some time. In this case, our sense is it should take much lesser time than the PVR Inox deal. So we need to wait for some fine print there. But clearly, we were expecting this. This is a significant positive. In terms of valuation, if you see, of course, it is quite cheap. And in fact, Sony will be putting in $1.5 billion. That itself value will be close to 50 to 60 rupee. You're absolutely right. If you remember, before all this twist and turn, one approval coming, two approvals not coming, the stock had gone up to 370 level. So I see no reason why, once we have more clarity on the SEBI promoter issue also, and once we have the advertising recovery, if you see in Q1, Z did not do well on the advertising front. But we track consumer companies very closely. There is a good gross margin expansion. There is no reason why in the coming quarters, all media companies, including Z and Sony, will see very good gradual recovery. Subscription revenue, if you see 18% growth, Z already saw. So I see no reason why the 370 level, which was seen earlier, should not go back definitely. And I think over a longer term, if no further skeletons in the board or say any other SEBI issue, which we continue to monitor, if they don't come, I would see even beyond that. So we remain quite positive, but we continue to monitor the detailed order and any fine print thereof.
Sure. Karan, Abneesh, just stay on. We want to discuss more of the business aspects with both of you. But as you said, this is all contingent on the legalities going through smoothly and the deal progressing. So for that, let me just go back to our legal experts. Of course, Sandeep Parekh has been with us. We also have Mr. J.N. Gupta joining in for a quick view on this. Mr. Gupta, I think this is a question we were asking Sandeep as well. Now, we just know that this has been approved by the NCLT without any sort of changes. It has dismissed all sort of issues around the deal. What we don't know is whether the ongoing issues that SEBI has with Mr. Subhash Chandra and Puneet Goenka as promoters, that matter, which I think is right now resting in SAT, whether that could kind of skew things in any way. Do you see this as a clean approval, Mr. Gupta?
I hear you. So I tell you one thing. The organization or a corporation or an entity is different of a person. Now, in this case, NCLT has just given approval of merger between Sony and G. Now, when we say the Sony and G merger, there was a condition that Puneet Goenka will be MD. But that condition was there as long as Puneet Goenka was not prohibited by any other law of the country for becoming MD. So we have to see this merger as a separate, and any other proceeding that is going on, whether it is by SEBI, RBI or whatever it may be, as a separate. What happens to the that proceeding and what is the consequences of the proceeding, it will be bound, the new entity will be bound by that. So if today there is a stay on Puneet Goenka's directorship, but tomorrow if SEBI says, and SEBI, the last court in the country says that Puneet Goenka cannot be a director, then he will not be a director in the merged entity. So as far as the merger of two entities are concerned, there is no issue. But as the previous speaker had said, that the devil lies in the detail. So we do not know what is there in the final order. But as I hear, yes, he said that it is an unconditional approval. So that means it is a approval is there, the two entities get merged, and consequences of any future order will be on the merged entity. Merged entity cannot say that NCLT has approved, so I will not follow what SEBI says. No, it is not. So that orders are separate.
Sure. Mr. Ranina is joining in the conversation as well. Mr. Ranina, just to fill you in, the one line that we know is that NCLT has dismissed all objections in the Zee Entertainment Sony merger and it has approved the merger. How would you read this? I think a lot of the investors want to lap up, and talk about the business prospects and the synergies from here on. But we need to understand whether, in your opinion, this is a clean approval and whether the deal can indeed go through.
Yeah, of course the deal will go through. I think they have all the objections have been set aside, and unless there is some very fundamental flaw in the order of the NCLT, I don't think even if somebody goes in appeal, they are going to succeed. So I think the deal should go through and will go through. As far as Puneet Goenka and Mr. Chandra are concerned, that's a separate issue. This will take its own time, whether they are fit and proper person to be the managing director of the company. That's a separate issue. But the important point is that the main structure of the deal has been approved. All the stakeholders have approved it. More than 99% of the shareholders have approved it. And there's no reason why this merger will not go through. It has to go through. I'm expecting it to be over in the next 3 to 4 months.
Okay. All right. Gentlemen, Mr. Ranina, Mr. Gupta and Sandeep, thank you very much for giving us your legal perspective on this. I do request Abneesh and Karan to stay back because we have some more questions on the stock and the life ahead now from a Zee investor standpoint and what the market will look at. Quick break. We're staying with the Zee story and our eye on the market as well.
Welcome back. Well, the big news is that the Zee Sony deal have got a clearance coming in from the NCLT, and that explains why the stock that was locked up close to around 10%, now it's moved up to around 15% as we speak. It's moving from circuit to circuit. To analyze the stock, well, we're joined by Hemang as well, I think joins us on the show. We already had Abneesh as well as Karan. Well, let's go across. I think Karan is still with us. Karan, I wanted to put a question to you. Well, the condition was that if Puneet Goenka remains a key managerial person, then he was subject to a non-compete fee, right? So what happens to this 2.1% stake that comes from this non-compete fee if Mr. Puneet Goenka doesn't remain a KMP? Karan, wanted your view on this?
So I think if he doesn't remain a KMP, even then I think the non-compete fee is something which would be given to him in any case. And I think there is a high likelihood of this scenario emerging, as I mentioned earlier. And I think in terms of the broader strategic things, I think internally they will obviously have started, working on various things or various combinations in terms of management. Probably, you could have somebody from Sony taking charge over here. And maybe, over the next 1 year, 1.5 years after this SEBI issue started, Puneet could also be got back. So still everything uncertain over there, but definitely non-compete is something which would be given to the Goenka family.
Think it stays. Abneesh, do you concur or do you have a different view?
Yeah, definitely. If you see, there will be some timeline for Puneet not being there. It is not an indefinite timeline. Second, definitely, Puneet knows this, and that's why he has formed this professional body which is taking care of the day-to-day. And he has said his intent is very clear that the merger should happen, and Sony is also very clear. So I would say that, yes, definitely, Sony also has been in India for more than 25 years. They understand this business extremely well. The corporate governance concerns will go away because the board will be 9-member team dominated completely by Sony. CFO will be Sony. So I would say that it's the best of the both worlds, and definitely for Puneet also, he knows that longer term he has skin in the game. 1 year, 2 year will be, say, the kind of scenario where he will not be in case SEBI continues to have that view. But longer term, he will continue to have skin in the game.
Karan, one of the reasons for the upside on Zee Entertainment post the merger deal was the expectation that the combined OTT platform of ZEE5 and Sony is going to be a very formidable player. Right, but in the last 1.5 years, there have been a lot of changes in OTT. Jio Cinema, for instance, has strengthened quite considerably and has emerged as a very strong competitor. Amazon has cut the prices in India. So, what were the synergies that you were anticipating from the combined OTT platform 1.5 years back when the merger was announced? And does it change today, given the changed dynamics?
Yeah, so I think if you look at the OTT business valuations, what we have done is we've signed a very low multiple for the OTT business, about 2.5 times sales. But if you look at the dynamics, I think the landscape is clearly changing. The competitive intensity is coming down because many of the smaller players are kind of on the verge of consolidation with the larger players, or they are partnering with the larger players rather. OTT as a business is all about scale. And just as on TV, if you see, they don't have too much of an overlap. Similar as on OTT as well, wherein Zee is very heavily focused on regional, on tier 2 and tier 3 markets, and Sony is more urban and sports-led. So I think the OTT platforms coming together will be like a big benefit for the merged co. And, it'll lead to basically cost-cutting initiatives. It will drive good efficiency around content costs, around tech costs. And you could also see the platform achieving profitability over the next 3 to 4 years. But nonetheless, I think disruption is there because of Jio Cinema, and that is here to stay. You may not see growth rates in OTT of what you see in the past because now the base is kind of penetrated. And secondly, SVOD revenue may not grow because, platforms are cutting ARPU, as you mentioned here. But nonetheless, I think it's going to be a big boost in terms of the overall valuation of the merged co because of the OTT business.
I'm just reminding people, as the stock is running away and climbing away today, around the time when the deal was announced, which was December of 2021, the stock was around 340, 350 thereabouts, if my memory serves me right. So it's still not gone back to those highs around the time of the deal announcement. Hemang Jani is also joining in the conversation. He's been waiting by patiently. Hemang, this Zee news has completely hijacked everything else in the market. We thought we'll discuss the Reserve Bank and banks with you, which we'll get to in a bit. But first thoughts on Zee, what's the house call and what are the target prices you'd work with, assuming that this overhang is well and truly out of the way?
Good afternoon. So clearly, this removes a major hurdle and overhang for the stock. As we all know, it's been a difficult period for last almost about 1 year. So I think that is certainly a big positive. I also saw a discussion around Mr. Puneet Goenka, whether he will be continuing as a CEO and whether he'll be paid non-compete fees. I think in both the scenarios, things are looking much better because there are section of investors who are more comfortable with an independent, CEO with corporate governance issues, etc. And that would surely have helped the company. And even if later on Mr. Punit Goenka is allowed to continue, I think it would be viewed positively in some way. So I don't think that by itself is a big factor at this point of time. I think given the synergies, given the uncertainty which was around that, because of which many things they were not able to implement, I think that clears off, and surely there is going to be a big re-rating of the stock as we move into next few weeks.
Okay, all right, got that. Well, gentlemen, unfortunately, have completely run out of time. I mean, Hemang, special apologies to you. It's just one of those days where news completely took over. But we hope to have a much longer chat on other issues as well. Karan, Abneesh, thank you very much for joining in and helping us make sense of this big news that's come in. The Zee-Sony merger finally getting an approval from the NCLT. Well, with that, let's come back to the market. It is just after 3 o'clock, 3:05, and the market continues to be pretty much in a range. We're still down, 100 down on the Nifty. The Bank Nifty is down about